And thanks, Teresa, and good morning to everyone. Shifting gears to the weather, and well, actually follow up on some of a lot of talk about phenology here, and we'll talk more about that here with at least with regard to the external weather conditions over the next couple of weeks. I do want to start though looking at the last week. There's several major items or major news events, or however you want to term it. But one was, and I think most everybody has seen the news footage of this, but major severe weather outbreak, extended several days over a fairly large area of the Midwest. Michigan was just on the northeastern fringe of that. We talked about this last Thursday morning at our weather briefing, and there was a frontal boundary up across the northern part of lower Michigan that served as a mechanism to focus some of these thunderstorms, and we actually did have some severe weather and it turned out to be in the northern lower. And from the inset image down here below, the major issue was large hail, and we had some 2-inch reports of 2-inch hail in Manistee County, especially the town of Anekama. And the same cell that was responsible for that moved from southwest to northeast across northern lower. But fortunately, other than some damage from the hail, we didn't see nearly as much of problems with severe weather as we saw to our west and south. And it's all of this is very, I think, indicative of the active weather pattern that we're in right now, especially across the Midwest. And then the bottom line is that this is expected to continue for much of the upcoming week here as we look ahead. And many of the things we talked about last week, we'll talk about this week as well, because in some ways it's a bit of a continuation. One of the other major, I guess, weather-related news item here was the frost freeze event that started actually the middle of last week. Thursday morning, last a week ago today, was the worst in terms of the low temperatures here, with upper teens in the far northern part of the state and low to mid 20s across much of northern and eastern lower Michigan. That's actually where the coldest temperatures were. And what you see here are a summary of some of the minimum temperatures during this 3-day period where we had frost and freezing temperatures. And again, the one in the middle here is the coldest morning. And we did see, especially for areas in the lower peninsula, this was a pretty significant or hard freeze for that late April. It's not unheard of, or certainly to see a freeze event, but to have one down in the low and mid 20s is unusual for this time of the year, especially given that our degree day totals are larger or higher than normal, and our phenological stages of our overwintering crops are ahead. Typically, in many areas, several days to as much as a week and a half, even 2 weeks in some cases in the far southwestern part of the state, ahead of where they typically are this time of the year. So the freeze event was a fairly big deal. I would say at this time, you never say never, but given the outlook, that might be we're at or even beyond for the far southern part of the state now. The average last spring freeze of the year, 32 degrees or colder. So climatologically, the climatology says that we are really near the end of that spring freeze risk, especially for the southern half of the state. We'll have to go a couple more weeks or more here well into May before that's true for the northern part of the state. One last thing here too. With and our week, it turned out to be in many areas a little bit warmer than normal, but this is from our EnviroWeather automated weather station here on campus in East Lansing. And what you're looking at here, the red lines are 5-minute air temperature values. This goes back a week, back to the 25th of April, so back to last Thursday through actually it's up through the early morning hours here this morning. And what I wanted to illustrate down below the bars here, those are hourly 2-inch bare soil temperatures. And with this week that we've had, and remember it started off cold with the frost freeze events here late last week, Thursday and into Friday, but then we had a rapid warming, and we had some 80-degree high temperatures over the weekend. You can see those here with the air temperature, but our soil temperatures responded fairly quickly and definitely across the state. And we put on 5 to as much as 10 degrees Fahrenheit for an average value here at 2 inches by now. And so soil temperatures have really warmed, and these values are warmer than what we typically see for the end of April and early May. So the soil temperatures have responded. Down in the lower left-hand corner here, this gives you the spatial pattern. Of course, this is East Lansing that you see here. This is on a fairly heavier, fine textured soil. And of course, with coarser textured soils that hold a little bit less water, we have temperatures even higher than this. But in general, the pattern at the lower left-hand side here suggests that these 2-inch temperatures now range from the upper 40s in far northern parts of the state, including the Upper Peninsula and in extreme northern lower, to the low 50s, low to mid 50s across central, to as much as the low 60s in the Southwest. And that's, again, those are the average values at 2 inches. So we've really made some progress here in terms of soil temperatures over the last week, and they are ahead or above what they typically are for the early part of May. Our overall means for the last week here, as I mentioned, on the left-hand side, and it ranged from at or even a degree or two below normal in the far northern part of the state across upper Michigan to significantly warmer than normal across southern lower Michigan. And that pattern is actually, we expect to continue here over the next few days, although it will warm up in the north as well. But the southern part of the state in particular has been much warmer than normal over the last few weeks. And you can see the departures here as much as 4, even 5 degrees Fahrenheit above the long-term normal. Just as importantly, given where we are here on the calendar and in the growing season, precip totals were highly variable across the state, and they range from less than half an inch across the thumb in portions of southeastern lower Michigan to more than 2 inches across the northern lower and much of central and eastern upper Michigan. That's the yellow here. Actually, the storm that caused that hail that you saw the image of, you can see the path of the parent thunderstorm here across from southwest to northeast. That was the same storm responsible for that, and that also caused heavy rain. So the bottom line here is that we had really quite a variety. Even though all of the state got some rainfall, it was significantly less, and with warmer than normal temperatures and higher evaporation rates, actually allowed some work to begin in some areas that did not see as much rainfall. And again, those areas were in the central and southeastern lower part of Michigan. In other parts of the state, especially the northern and western lower, where there was more rainfall, it was more difficult to just with the extra moisture in the soil. So it depended on where you are. I think we're going to see some of that same pattern continue here over the next week. Now, this morning, as we look at the weather map, we have high pressure over the state here, but it's on its way eastward, and the next major weather system to affect the state over the next 24 to 36 hours is just off to our west. You can see the precipitation out over the Western Corn Belt. That is moving towards us. So for most of us today, we will see considerable cloudiness, probably with an increase in clouds during the day, with showers and a couple of thunderstorms developing here by as early as maybe late afternoon. Most areas will see the rainfall begin in the late evening and the overnight hours, but it'll spread from west to east across the state again late tonight and tomorrow morning, and then continue through tomorrow. This is the weather map here for tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, and you can see the area of low pressure that's all of this is associated with up over the U.S.-Canadian border, and then a frontal system here. That's basically what's setting off the moisture flow ahead of this is what's associated with the precipitation. So tomorrow, for most areas, will be we won't call it a washout, but certainly it won't be favorable. There will be occasional showers, a rumble of thunder, and ultimately, the precipitation will come to an end from west to east by late in the day or in the east in the early evening. This particular event, fairly widespread totals, generally quarter to half an inch is what we're looking at. That there will be some higher totals probably across the far southern part of the state, including the southeast, which was missed by some of the events here over last week. So again, that's the pattern that we see here for the next week. The heaviest precipitation totals probably in the southern part of Michigan versus the north. Finally, for Saturday morning here, you can see a few lingering sprinkles in left and far eastern parts of the state. And then the next weather system, which is a minor one, you can see a frontal system out here just off to our west. That will move through most of the state overnight Saturday into Sunday. There will be a chance of showers with that, but in contrast to tomorrow and well, later today and tomorrow, this one should be much more scattered and only talking maybe a 30% or so chance for some showers. What does fall with this will likely be light, less than 1/10 of an inch, and many areas will remain dry here for the weekend. Temperature-wise, we are looking at above normal temperatures for much of the state, especially the south, with highs ranging from the upper 50s to low 60s in the far north to the mid and upper 70s in the south. And we're going to be there for really much of the upcoming week. So in looking at the departures, probably at least 5 to 8 degrees Fahrenheit above normal for much of the upcoming week. The active weather pattern I mentioned is still expected to be active next week. This is a weather map here for next Tuesday morning. So this is the next major weather system, the second one to deal with. That comes late on Monday, more likely on Tuesday, continuing into Wednesday of next week. And as you can see here from the weather map, the green area here is the expected precipitation. Precip once again spreads from west to east across the state, mostly on Tuesday and into Wednesday. This one will also be fairly widespread. Right now is expected to be fairly widespread with at least 1/4 to 1/2 an inch or greater. Highest amounts, once again, probably across the south. So when we look at the gauge here over the upcoming week and we think about planning and trying to get out and get something done, we are looking at a wetter than normal week with most areas receiving between 3/4 and 1.5 inches. Some even better than that. But as the chart here, the image suggests, highest totals across the southern half of lower Michigan. So it is going to be a challenging one. But I put the caveat, like we did last week, there are going to be some areas that are missed, or perhaps by a couple of these systems. And given the warmer than normal temperatures, we will still have accelerated drying event or accelerated drying of the soil going on, or evaporation rates. So there still will be probably some areas with opportunities. It just won't be everywhere, and I think that'll probably be the minority for people again waiting to get in, and especially on those lighter textured, coarser textured lighter soils that we'll see. That's of course when we'll have the first option or opportunities to get out there. So don't look at this as a forecast, which basically precludes any kind of progress. There will be some areas that I think are still able to get some work done with a little bit of luck, but it is going to require some luck because again, most areas will see rainfall, especially over the next 24 hours, and then again early next week. Looking on beyond that, or just wrapping up, medium range suggests essentially more of the same. On the left-hand side here, our jet stream pattern troughing out over western North America, ridging over the east, and that's the fairly strong indicator of normal to at least normal, if not above normal, warmer than normal mean temperatures. And you can also see with that pattern, that southwesterly flow aloft, a continued active jet stream and a continued active storm track through the Midwest. That's very likely to continue with at least normal, if not above normal, or wetter than normal conditions. That's again, the wetter than normal certainly is not what we want to see this time of the year. There's some possibility that we could see a little bit of a breakdown in this pattern by late next weekend, at least with a little bit cooler weather, so that it's about a week and a half out. But that probably is temporary, given that jet stream flow and the new updated 30-day outlook for the month of May very, very strongly reflects what you just saw for the next 2 weeks, and that is warmer than normal mean temperatures and again, normal to above normal precipitation totals. And that is a change. This one was just issued here earlier this week, or an update of what we had 2 weeks ago. And the temperature forecast is the same as it was before, and that's warmer than normal for May. But the precip definitely has been upped, unfortunately, into a higher category than what we saw earlier. It was the near equal odd scenario before, but now, given the most recent medium range guidance, has been moved to a little bit wetter than normal. So we'll have to watch that closely as we move here into May and things really matter. But a couple good things going for us, again, warmer than normal soil temperatures and also higher evaporation rates. That will help a little bit. in terms of allowing work to begin earlier than it would under typical circumstances. So active, warmer than normal, and an active weather pattern here expected to continue for much of the upcoming week. We talked about some of these issues, and again, not only elevated evaporation rates, but also we will see elevated degree day accumulations. So we expect a little bit accelerated growth and development of whatever's there, or crops, if you're lucky enough to have one in the ground, have maybe earlier than normal emergence and early growth. And again, medium range and the next month or so still suggest above normal or above normal values of both of temperatures and precipitation. And I'll wrap up there and introduce next week's speaker. This will be the 9th of May next week, and we've got a visitor from Ohio State University. That's Dr. Alex Lindsay, who's going to be here to talk about managing nitrogen in corn after waterlogging. Hopefully not an issue we have to deal with, but in Michigan in the spring, it is an issue that comes up more than we'd like. But he'll be here with us next Thursday, so don't miss that. And with that, I'm going to hand off back to Phil to talk about our UP credits. Thanks.